Go ahead. What's going through your mind, Darryl?
A lot. It's real tough. When you think about Carter, and you think about not just the player, you think about the person of who he was in our clubhouse. In the midst of all the chaos of what that team was in the 80s. Carter was one of those players that was just an example of a baseball player with character, that lived right, loved his wife and kids, treated everybody with first class, never said a bad word to hurt anybody, never ran into altercations, and you sit here and you hear of his passing. I just saw him a month ago, and I knew he was not in very good shape. And you hear of his passing today, and we knew it was coming. And you feel for his family. You pray, lift them up in prayers, and our thoughts are with them because of him as a man. Every professional athlete should want to live their life like a Gary Carter. That's what it's all about, Mike. I wish I could live my life like a Gary Carter as a baseball player, and love my family and love my children, and have my faith and do things right. He did things right. No matter what people want to throw out at him and say he was this and say he was that, phony and this and that, because he smiled, and he was happy. He didn't have demons. He was free. And I have nothing but admiration and respect for Mr. Carter and all the accomplished as a teammate and as a person.
Darryl, you brought up a lot of stuff there, and, you're always now so honest about all this stuff. That's why you're so good to get on about all these things. And you said a lot there. At that time, he wasn't, there were divisions. Guys other players used to think that he was a bit of a phony, right? They did think he was too much seeking out the media and the cameras and always smiling, and that he was a, guy who acted like he was just a do-gooder and that kind of stuff. That did rub some players in those days the wrong way, didn't it?
Well, it probably did, because of jealousy.
Right.
Because of his personality. His personality attracted the media. He wasn't a player to bash the media, and the media always wanted to talk to him. And I knew that from just playing with him, regardless of the other players' opinions.
Did you like him when you guys first met and he was on the team? And you're a young guy and you're a big star? Did you like Gary Carter?
Loved him, Mike. Loved him. I've always loved Gary. I've always admired Gary. Because I believe that's everybody's passion to be successful, but do it the right way. And Gary Carter did it the right way, regardless of what other players thought about him and, thought he was a big showboat or highlights film phony. It's because they wasn't in the spotlight like he was. I mean, I had the spotlight, and I understand it, and I had all kind of, demons inside of me. Gary Carter didn't. I know Gary because I sat down and Gary used to tell me about his faith and tell me about the love of God, and he says God want to use you, and he didn't force it on me, but he always shared it with me, and I think that's what a lot of people misunderstood about him. He was true about his faith. He never wavered from his faith. He was a baseball player. He was great. He was a Hall of Famer. He came over to our team, and he helped our team become a winner, because he handled the pitching staff with the ability to play the game and all the things that he could do, on the baseball field. But outside of that, he was a great man inside, and that's what most people, will miss about him and got to miss about him. Now that his passing, he has passed away and everything, now everybody's going to look back and reflect. But they're going to realize that was a great man inside, regardless of how we may look at him and viewed him. He was a great man inside.
Was he a leader to the young guys on that team?
Yes, he was. He was a total leader to the club. Keith was a leader, but Gary was also a leader. Gary led the pitching staff. Gary had control of what the pitching staff was all about. When he came over, our pitching staff got better. When we got him in the trade and he came over and took his position behind the plate as starting catcher every day for their team, our pitching staff got better because of Gary Carter.
We're talking with Darryl Strawberry, the passing, if you're just joining us, of Gary Carter today from his bout with brain cancer at the age of 57. The kid, Hall of Famer, came to the Mets in '85 and really, along with Keith Hernandez, provided the leadership that that young, very talented team, which included, of course, Darryl Strawberry, needed to be champions. A year later, they were champions. And when you think back now, and you think back to those years, and you think back to Gary Carter, what goes through your mind, Darryl, as you think about Gary Carter today?
Well, I mean, there's so many things to think about, Mike. You know, you can sit here and think about, you know, him coming over and being a part of the New York Mets and, you know, what he brought to that franchise, you know, as a caliber player as he was when he came over from Montreal and then helping us win a championship. He was, you know, more than anyone could ask for, you know, as a catcher. Him getting inducted to the Hall of Fame, which was well-deserved. Him probably being one of the top best catchers probably to ever play the game of baseball. You know, when I look back now and think about, you know, him as the person he was, you know, for all of us, you know, for the team, you know, I remember him having team parties at his house, you know, for the team, just the man he was, you know, the character of a man, you know. The character of a man says more than putting on a uniform, Mike, sometimes, and I think people don't see that. You know, I think they see, you know, the uniform, and they don't realize that there's a man inside of the uniform, and that's what Gary Carter displayed. I mean, he displayed that his whole career, you know, and that's something that you have to admire. That's something I hope the listeners out there are admiring about Gary Carter, is the man that Gary Carter was, not just being a baseball player. He was a true man. He was a true man to his wife and his kids. And Mike, you know, that's what we all strive for, to be right. And he was right, Mike. And you know, he goes down in history as a great baseball player. But in my book, he goes down as a man of God, a man of faith that lived right. He exemplified what life is supposed to be like here on earth. And you know, he's going to be missed. But, you know, he's on his way to glory, but he's going to be missed, you know, from, you know, families and friends, you know. But, you know, the man of Gary Carter, you know, I can't stop talking about who he was, because what he was in that clubhouse, when you look back on that clubhouse and what we had in that clubhouse, we had young players, we had veteran players. Carter was a veteran player, but we had players of all kind of, you know, issues and chaotic inside of him. And Carter sat in the middle of that. Him and a couple other players sat in the middle of that, and they didn't participate in that. I have nothing but respect for those guys that was teammates like that respected the game, they respected their wife, and they respected their family. And that's what Carter was.
Darryl, did he ever try to change you? Did he ever try to talk to you and counsel you at all when you were having tough times? I mean, did you have talks with him about that stuff?
Carter talks to everybody. Carter talked to everybody in love. Carter led by example. He led by example as a Christian. He wasn't a phony. You know, everybody needs to know that. He led by example as a Christian man in that clubhouse, in that time, in that era, and who we all were. He was a true man. He lived the right way. He said the right things, and he did the right things. And, you know, he went out and played the game as hard as he could, as well as he could, to help us winners. You know, and no, he never wanted to try to force himself on anybody or change anybody, but he's always stood for what was right. He always told you he loves Jesus, and that's the bottom line. You know, nothing ever changed from that. From day one, when I found out that he was strong in his faith, that's what he believed. And you know what? I had number. Right? How could you not respect him? You know, I mean, everybody want to, you know, persecute somebody because they love Christ. You know, it shows in his life the way he lived. You know, and some of us should have took heed to it. You know,
I get the impression that, and listen, you're very, very honest about this stuff now, and you're hard on yourself from stuff from years ago. But it's interesting. It's like you're telling me that you really respect the idea that he didn't get caught up in any of the stuff that you guys caught. He was strong enough not to get caught up in the stuff you guys got caught up in.
Well, it just shows you. It shows you his faith was real. because he didn't get caught up. No, he didn't get caught up. He didn't get caught up with nobody. He was a man. He was a man with a pride of who he was as a person and who he loved. Was God, and he didn't waver from that. How can you not respect that? I respected him when I played. I respect him even more when I realized, that's who he was, Mike. And, I think a lot of people took that the wrong way. So Carter goes down in my book as one of the best teammates that you could ever have and play for and be an example. There's no question about it. He's an example to what a baseball player, a football player, basketball player, or whatever you are as an athlete, the way you're supposed to live and the way you're supposed to treat your career and take care of yourself. And that's what he did.
Well, you couldn't have said it any better. I think the way you remember him, Darryl, and the things you've just said about him, I'm sure would put a smile on his face right now, because I don't know how anybody wouldn't like to hear the things you just said about him and the things you just shared about him. So it sounds like you couldn't have any more respect for him than you have, huh? Right?
No, I have so much respect, for Gary, and I always did have respect for Gary. I admired Gary when he first came over because he was different. I knew it was something different about him because you could see it in the clubhouse, and you could see it, when others would run around and, acting crazy and maybe at times and backstabbing each other and talking about each other. Carter didn't do that.
And you said you saw him recently. Have you stayed close through? A lot of you guys have, Darryl. Have you stayed close to Gary or relatively close through the years?
Yes, I've been very close. Of course, we had the same age as me, Chasky, who represented all of us.
Right.
He's been back and forth. He's been back and forth this whole time with Carter because he was Carter's closest friend. And he was there for Carter through everything, and he's been back and forth from Florida down to Palm Beach. He's kept me informed of Carter's situation. We talk every day about Carter, me and him, and, it's just been a sad moment for him because I just got off the phone with him, and he's very emotional right now because he was like a brother to Carter, and, he the one told me that Carter was about to pass any day yesterday, and he says any day right now, and he'd keep me posted, and he kept me posted, and as soon as the passing came along, he called me and told me he passed away just now.